Welcome to Google Apps for Education for K12 from Cloud Technology Solutions. I'll just do a quick run through of the agenda. So firstly, we're going to meet the team, and then we're going to discover a little bit about Google Apps and why Google Apps for Education. We're also introducing CTS and our Cloud Migrator product, which will get you to Google Apps in the simplest way possible. And then we've got a customer of ours on who's kindly agreed to come on today and talk about his experiences. And then finally, we'll do the Q&A and the next actions. So within the Hangout on Air, you've got the opportunity to ask as many questions as you like. You won't be able to voice those, you'll have to type those in. But that would be really appreciated and helpful. If you've got any questions, please do add them. So without further ado, let's meet the team. You've got myself, Noel Boone. I'm the VP of Software here at CTS, and I'm responsible for some of our team here today, Hannah and Andrew, who we'll see shortly. We've got Stuart Cummins, who's a Google certified trainer. Stuart, would you like to say hello?
Hi everyone. Great to be here. I'll be talking to you in a little moment about Google Apps for Education.
Thanks, Stuart. And now we've got Hannah Cassidy, one of our international account managers. Hi, Hannah.
Hi there, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I hope you find it really useful. I'm one of the international account managers here, so I feed into Noel alongside Andrew, who's on the call. So we'll be the kind of go-to people who are going to be managing your accounts if you decide to go with us. Answering all of your questions, talking you through commercials, setting up meetings internally. So hopefully you'll get to know us a lot better over the next few weeks in the coming months.
Andrew, over to you.
Hi guys, Andrew here. As Hannah says, we work together as part of the international Cloud Migrator team. We've had lots of success in the education sector, and we're really excited to show you what we've got to offer today. So thanks for joining us.
We've also got Zen in the background. She's not on camera today, but she's the moderator. And we've also got Michael Medley. Hi, Michael. Mike's joining us from Perry Local Schools. Just need to unmute yourself if you want to say hello, Michael, at this point.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Right. Thanks, Michael. We'll catch up with you shortly later on in the presentation. But without further ado, I'll hand over to Stuart, and he's going to tell us more about discovering Google Apps, and more specifically, Google Apps for Education. Thanks, Stuart.
Okay, thanks, Noel. Let me just share my slides with you here so we can get started. Okay, just a quick reminder as well, if you have any questions, please pop them into the Q&A panel and we'll pick those up towards the end. First of all, let's start with a rather surprising statement that 60% of students currently in school today will have careers that don't even exist yet. That's quite surprising, isn't it? But if you think about many of the technology roles that maybe you or I have, they didn't exist when we were at school. The invention of the web and so on has created a whole new sets of industries and things. But it's not just technology roles themselves that didn't exist. Other roles that are impacted by technology may not exist yet, but they will do in the future. So the way we research and collaborate and disseminate information has already evolved, and it'll continue to change. So the conventional thinking on education about maybe teaching people skills for a specific job doesn't really fit anymore, and we need to change that as well. We need to teach our kids the tools to be successful, things like how to collaborate, how to research, how to organize information and formulate an argument, and so on. In many ways, the technology that has already transformed the way we communicate and participate and sort of experience the world, it's removing some of the barriers. And that's true in education as well. A few examples here. The first image in the top left there shows a Google school. It's Fort Sam in Houston, Texas. And they have a lot of students from families in the military. So they've chosen to use Google Apps so that their parents can stay in touch with the students and the work that they're doing, even when they've been deployed overseas. The picture in the top right is an example of how tools like Hangout, which we're in at the moment, can be used to bring experts into the classroom. For instance, you could bring a local political figure in to speak with a government class, or maybe have a surgeon talk to biology students and things like that. The pictures at the bottom show examples from Google's ARC project and Google Maps, where you can bring information from around the world into the classroom much more cost effectively than it would cost you to go and visit these locations. So let's talk about what it means for a school to go Google. Going Google is a term we use to talk about the businesses and the schools and colleges and things that have adopted the Google technologies. But they tell us that it's much more about the technology, and it's more about a whole cultural change within the organization. It's about adopting tools and techniques and ways of working that extend beyond the classroom walls. So it's about openness, curiosity, and working together. It really means four things. Firstly, empowerment, helping the students to discover a whole world of infinite resources that are at their fingertips now. It means choice, being able to use the right device at the right time from wherever you are. And it's about teamwork, having the students, the teachers, and the parents all able to work together in real time, if necessary. And it's also about scalability. When you're deploying lots more devices than you might have done in the past, that technology needs to be affordable and easy to manage at scale. So let's look a bit deeper at those. Firstly, empowerment. When you've got access to digital content like we do these days, and there'll be more and more of it, it empowers the students and it gives the teachers the tools they need to produce individualized learning for their students. So it's important to help the students discover this world of resources, and the role of the teacher changes from being a lecturer who just disseminates the information to a facilitator who coaches and supports the students as they explore the information that's accessible to them. So Google Apps for Education allows content management, and it gives you controls that you can restrict access to certain types of information for those vulnerable young people. Secondly, Google believes in giving schools choice in the devices that they use. So it's the ability to use the right device at the right time. Because what good is the information if it isn't accessible? So teachers can only change the way they teach if the students have got reliable access to the information. And a student's information and learning environment should be easy to access and secure, whether they're using a laptop, a tablet, or a desktop, and whether they're in the classroom, at the library, or at home. So Google Apps for Education works across different devices and platforms so that the technology can just get out of the way, letting the students and teachers focus on the content and on working together. Being platform agnostic in this way means that the schools can continue to use their existing equipment and keep their options open for deploying other equipment in the future, such as Chromebooks and tablets. Next thing, going Google is about teamwork. And teachers tell us that being able to work together in real time using Google Apps is one of the most profound changes in the way they teach and in the way students learn. Collaboration fosters teamwork, problem solving, and organization, key skills that they'll need in the modern world. So how do you take advantage of collaboration? Well, one way is with Google Docs, where multiple students can work together in the same document at the same time. We'll see an example of that shortly. And this way makes schoolwork much more like real work. Students can learn by working with a set of classmates with diverse perspectives. And they learn how to get along as a group, how to get work done. They decide things like who's the leader, who's the editor, who's got the right to change which bits of work. And these are the kind of discussions that they'll have at university and out in the professional world. And finally, going Google is about scale, having technology that's affordable and easy to manage. With a school's budget, the price of a device really matters. So low-cost solutions give more students the opportunity to go Google. But scalability and device and content management are equally important to keep the total cost of ownership low and to allow the IT teams the ability to manage a rise or a surge in the number of devices that they'll deploy and manage. So Google makes devices that are quick and easy to set up and to manage. And with Google Apps at the core of it, it's easy to manage 10 or even 10,000 devices using the admin tools. You could set up a whole classroom of tablets or Chromebooks in just minutes. And because the devices are intuitive and easy to use, the students get started with them very quickly. There's no need to run around at the beginning of the class troubleshooting connectivity and all those kind of problems. Google also do support these they give you 24/7 online and telephone support if you need it. So let's look at what Google Apps for Education actually involves. You get a whole suite of different applications. Some of them are illustrated on the screen here. You have things like Gmail for accessing your email and calendar and so on. But you also have Google Documents and spreadsheets and presentations for creating content. And since these are all web-based tools, it means they're available from any device with a web browser. Different applications can be enabled and disabled for different groups of user. So you may want staff to be able to use the Hangouts chatting facility, for example, while removing that capability from students. And this flexibility and control is one reason why Google Apps has become so incredibly popular in schools. In fact, there's over 40 million Google Apps for Education users in 180 different countries right now. And of the 100 top US universities, over 70 of them are already using Google Apps. And 7 out of the 8 Ivy League universities are using it as well. Let's take a closer look at just a couple of these tools so you get a feel for how they work. Google Documents is a great tool for collaboration because it allows multiple people to work on the same document at the same time, even using different types of devices, as you see here. So this makes it perfect for either monitoring students' work, where a teacher could look at what the student is working on from a central position, or even providing assistance without having to wander around everybody. You can do it remotely if you need to. And these documents are stored inside of Google Drive, which means that they're available from anywhere. There's no need to upload and download files. There's no need to transfer them into a USB thumb drive to take them home with you and things like that, which makes it ideal for homeworking. You could start a piece of work in class and then continue it at home without having to move any of the files around. And you have all the storage you need all the time, completely free. Schools have unlimited storage through Google Drive, so you never have to worry about running out of space. And it's not just Google Documents you can store here. You can store your Microsoft documents, all kinds of files, photos, videos, and so on inside of Google Drive. So you have everything all in one place. Another application that you get specifically in Google Apps for Education is Google Classroom. This is an application that lets teachers create and collect assignments paperlessly all in one place. They can quickly see who has or hasn't completed a piece of work, and you can provide direct real-time feedback to individual students. So when a teacher creates an assignment in Classroom, they can choose to share a single document with the whole class, or automatically make a copy of that document, one for each student. Students can then turn in their assignments directly from the Classroom app or inside of Google Docs, and the teachers can easily see which students have turned in their assignments, and they can then provide feedback and grading. Google Classroom automatically files all the assignments in the class materials folder inside of Google Drive, so you'll always know where everything is. So that's just a couple of the tools. There's a lot more, obviously, but those are the two key ones, I think. It's really important. So you get a load of powerful tools, transformative for your school, at zero cost. Google Apps for Education is 100% free and without any adverts in it at all. So all this technology becomes even easier to use when you've got the right devices to access it with. And that's one of the reasons why Google developed the Chromebook. So let's take a little look at that. Chromebooks are web-based computers that are great for schools because they're so easy to use, to manage, and to scale. With Chromebooks, students just open the lid, sign in, and they're up and running in less than 8 seconds, which allows the teachers to dedicate more of their time towards instruction and less to fiddling around with the technology. When you're using Chromebooks, everything is stored on the web, and so it doesn't matter which machine you use. When your student signs into any of the Chromebooks, they're automatically taken to their learning experience that you've designed for them based on your curriculum goals. So the idea is for the technology to seem invisible to them. It's just another tool in the classroom. And districts are finding that Chromebooks are so easy to deploy that they've actually become the #1 device in education in the United States. Let's talk a little bit about that management, because it's one of the critical differences between Chromebooks and other types of devices that you might deploy in the classroom. Chromebooks are so easy to manage that if you're in tech yourself, or if you talk to your technology department, you'll know that managing devices takes up a significant portion of their time. have to buy licenses, they might have to go around visiting every machine to install software, make sure the antivirus is up to date. They might have to re-image those machines from time to time, a lot of troubleshooting and so on. And all of that is very time-consuming and costly. But since the Chrome devices are entirely web-based, it makes management a breeze. The Chromebooks shift the model away from the old way of managing where you have to touch each and every device, because with Chromebooks you can manage all of them centrally through one single web page. Here you're able to control all of the device settings and set all of the security controls on all of your computers. For instance, you could push a particular web application out to all the students in a particular grade that you needed to have access to. And also, Chromebooks are forever fresh. Google releases a new version of the Chrome operating system about every 6 or 7 weeks, and your Chromebooks will automatically receive that update in the background, so that the next time you start it, it's got the latest and greatest. So these, unlike most computers, these actually get better and better in time rather than slower and slower. And because it's entirely web-based, they're secure against malware and viruses. I said they were easy to deploy, and you don't get a better example than this. The entire country of Malaysia deployed Chromebooks. In April 2013, they decided they were going Google. So they deployed Google Apps for 11 million parents, teachers, and students, and deployed over 100,000 Chromebooks nationwide for primary and secondary students. So if an entire country can do it, you can see it must be scalable to a school or an entire district. We also have the option for Android tablets to be used in school. These are typically going to be cheaper than a desktop type device, so some schools opt to use tablets. And they're great for deploying and leaving in the classroom, just like a resource. They're allowing you to discover educational content and e-books and things like that, maybe videos that you want the students to have access to. And there's a specific area called Google Play for Education. It's a single destination for teachers to find and share educational content. So Play for Education makes it easy for teachers to explore Android apps for their tablets, as well as Chrome apps for your Chromebooks, and e-books that can be deployed and read on any web browser. So instead of putting a request into your IT department and waiting for a specific application to be loaded onto your tablet or whichever machine you need it on, the teacher can explore Google Play for Education themselves, find the content they need, and instantly send it out to the students' devices. So let's have a quick look at some of the content that you have available. This is just a sample screen here of the idea. And there's a huge selection of Android apps that are specifically for education. Google worked with a group called Q, Computer Using Educators, to review and categorize thousands of applications for the classroom, from personalized reading apps like RazKids, to creative tools like Creative Book Builder and WeVideo, to classroom management apps like Socrative and Explain Everything. And in addition to the thousands of apps approved just for schools, you've also got access to the millions of apps that are available from the standard Google Play Store. So if a teacher happens to think that Angry Birds is a great way of teaching physics to the students, it's easy for them to get hold of that application and deploy it to the students' tablets as well. And if you're looking for reading material, you can choose from thousands of K12 books in the Google Play for Education store. So instead of buying a set of books for the classroom that in 3 years from now might be irrelevant or the students aren't interested in or they've been dog-eared and ruined, a teacher can customize the reading material for their students' interests and push them out to the devices. In addition to the books that are available for rent, you also get access to thousands of classic books that are now available for free. So things like Shakespeare are never more than a few clicks away. And once a book is assigned, the students have the flexibility to read it on any device. So if the tablets that you're deploying for the students have to stay in school overnight, for example, they'll be able to log into their account at home and pick up that ebook wherever they left off. So just to wrap things up, it's clear that the world continues to change at a faster and faster rate, and we can't know what the future holds for our young people. But we can equip them with the skills they're going to need to meet that world, skills like teamworking and collaboration. And the way to do that is to give them the tools that will foster those skills no matter where they are or what device they use. And that's Google Apps. Best of all, you can start doing that right now because it's absolutely free. So I'll now hand over to Andrew, who's going to talk a little bit about CTS and the Cloud Migrator.
Thank you, Stuart. Okay, so a little bit more about CTS or Cloud Technology Solutions. So CTS, we're an established UK-based cloud enablement company. We're based in Manchester in the north of England. We're also a Google Technology Partner, or an ISV. And where compliance is concerned, we are ISO certified. So we have our own products. The one we'll talk about today is Cloud Migrator. So we developed, designed, and market that tool since its inception in 2008, 2009. We have an annual turnover of around $8 million US dollars, and we operate globally in just over 30 countries. More significantly, we've actually migrated over 3 million individual users over to Google Apps using Cloud Migrator, using our migration tool, Cloud Migrator. And making up some of those 3 million users are just over 350 educational organizations that have moved to the cloud using Cloud Migrator. So that could be entire school districts, high schools, middle schools, K12 essentially. You might recognize some of the logos we've got up on this slide here. We're happy to provide references for any of these institutions which we've helped migrate over the years. If you head over to our website as well, you can also take a look at some of the customer feedback we've got, kind of reviews, if you will. Yeah, and that's me. So I'm going to hand over to my colleague Hannah, who's going to give us a kind of high-level overview as to what exactly Cloud Migrator is, what it does, and hopefully how it can help you, your school district, make the jump to Google Apps easy as can be. Thanks, Hannah.
Thanks, Andrew. I think we had a bit of a glitch in the presentation there, so apologies for that. But it looks like we're back on track now, so I'll take it from here. So,
yeah, sorry about that, guys. Bit of a mix-up at this end with the slides.
We should have known better than to trust Noel to drive the presentation. That's all I'll say. So yeah, as Andrew mentioned before, we developed Cloud Migrator. Some of you may have heard of it, some of you might not have. I'm going to try and give you a high-level version of what Cloud Migrator is, what we can do with it, how it's going to benefit you. We could go on for hours about it, so it's going to be a condensed version, but as Noel and Stuart said before, please do feel free to pop some questions. We've had a couple of good ones come through so far, so it'd be great to find more questions, and we'll cover those in the Q&A session at the end. So what is Cloud Migrator? It's a multi-platform migration tool. So what we mean by that is we move from many different source email platforms. So we've got some logos there, GroupWise, CM365, or Microsoft 365, sorry, Scalix, Zimbra. We do Google to Google migrations, IMAP, all the different versions of Exchange and hosted Exchange. And if I've not mentioned your source platform, feel free again to pop it in the question bar, and it's more than likely that we can migrate from that too. Not only this, we're also migrating to multiple destinations as well. So we do migrate to Google Apps as a standard, but we can migrate files and into Drive. And we can do drive-to-drive migrations on the Google side, and we can also migrate into Google Vault as well. So if you've got any archives or any mail that you want to go into Google Vault, we can handle that. So why are we different from any other tool out there, I guess? For us, the big thing that stands out is our superior success rate. So as Andrew mentioned before, we've migrated over 3 million users across 6,000 different domains. And in the last 12 months alone, that consists of migrating 10 billion items, which for me is a really hefty statistic to stand behind. So when we take all of that information and we look at all of our historical migrations, that averages out at about a 99.7% item success rate. So, you know, that's just a number to you guys. It doesn't mean anything at the moment. You know, for you just want to make sure all your mail gets migrated over, so you'd like to think that the statistics should be around there. But to give you a bit of perspective on things, the Gammy and Gamlin, which are the current free Google tools which are available, they currently operate at about a 50 to 60% success rate. So, you know, you're talking about a good 40 to 30% difference in terms of how much of your data is going to be migrated across. That's a statistic we're very, very proud of, and something which is going to put your mind at rest in terms of, will my data be migrated? Is everything going to be where I expect it to be? Not only this, we also move more. So generally, third-party migration solutions, they're going to handle your mail, probably your contacts and calendar, not particularly complex things like reoccurring appointments and things like that, just the bog standard. We migrate more, so we do migrate emails, calendars, contacts, but we also migrate things like tasks, your archives, your resources. With Google to Google migrations, if you're consolidating domains, we also migrate things like Google Groups. We migrate documents into Drive. We also do a few different things. So a big thing which is really useful for a few different reasons is oversized attachments. You might not know, but Google have a 25 meg limit on attachments. That's mainly so all your data space isn't being taken up by things like attachments, that they like to limit that. But if you're migrating over from things like Microsoft, you're going to have larger attachments there that you don't want to lose. So what you can say to us is, okay, I'm going to allow attachments up to the size of 50 meg, for instance, or larger or smaller. We can set that limit within the tool. And then what we actually do is we don't migrate the attachment as such. We don't migrate it into your inbox. We migrate it into the user's Google Drive. So this is great for a couple of reasons. As I said before, Google are really wanting to make sure that you're not using up all your space within your Gmail. So it takes out any additional usage and it moves it into your user's Drive. And what we do is we insert a link within the email where the attachment originally was, and the user will then go in, see the link, click on it, it'll automatically redirect them to their Drive where the attachment's been migrated. So this is also great in terms of user adoption. It means your users are now going to start coming around to the fact that, you know, I don't need to send attachments anymore. What I can do is go into my Drive and share a document or share, you know, some data with another user, and it's not going to take up any room, and I don't need to send anything like that. We also migrate different file types, which usually are in the likes of Gammon Gamlin, they would actually fail. So things like zip files and exe files, we migrate those as well. And more recently, we've done a lot of work around file shares and file migrations to Drive. So we can now also take care of that, and I'm going to talk a bit about that on the next slide as well. We also like to think that we're more efficient. So as part of our migration service, we'll provide you with a migration report as standard. So you can request that at an individual user level. So if you've got some VIPs or some people with a lot of data, or people who are in HR who need things for legal reasons, for instance, we can provide them with an individual user report which says this is the data that's been moved over. If any of the data hasn't been moved over, this is exactly why, and this is what it was. So for compliance reasons, this is really, really useful, but also just for peace of mind. If you've got any skeptics in the audience, then this is going to be something that you can just hand them easily, which they can go through in their own time and make sure they're happy with everything. We also provide those at an organizational level. So again, you can make sure that everything's been moved over that you expected it to be. Because we migrate more, there are less failures as well. We can handle more complex file types. We can handle oversized attachments. We move more, so you're going to get less failures. We're going to come up against less problems in the migration process. Another thing about Cloud Migrator is it's really scalable. So we can actually set up on a local server or a remote server, a virtual machine in the cloud. And we can then clone that machine. So we can run your migration over 4 or 5 different servers if it's going to run quicker, depending on your timescale. So we can actually sit down with you and say, okay, you've got a few different options here. Either we can run it on 1 server and it's going to take X amount of time, or we can run it on 4 servers and it's going to take you know, a lot less time. So if your back's against the wall in terms of getting your migration done, then we can do that as well. So I touched upon file migrations before. We can migrate personal and system files to Drive now, which is great. And more than that, we can also maintain file hierarchy as well. So when your users go from using Microsoft into using Google Drive, they'll go into the drive, and the hierarchy is exactly how it was on the Microsoft side of things. So automatically it's looking really familiar to the end user. They're not stressing, they're not going to the help desk saying, you know, where's this file going, I can't find this, I can't find that. They're looking at it and going, okay, I know exactly where everything is, this isn't as scary as I thought it would be. Again, in terms of user adoption, that this is a really great feature, we think. In terms of value, I know Noel's going to speak about the commercials later on, so don't worry, we will cover that in the presentation. But just a couple of points. File migrations are included in our licensing for 12 months as well. So a lot of other companies who do similar things to what we do, that is a completely different charge. And also it's charged by how much data you move. We have no data limits as well. So you can move as much data as you want across your users, and you have up to 12 months to do that. So say you want to get your users on Google using their mail, calendar, contacts, we can do that migration, and then say 6 months down the line when they've got used to it, or a couple of months down the line, we can then migrate the files as well and get those over for you. On top of all of this, we provide really significant EDU discounts. So again, Noel will cover that later, but we try and make this as an attractive and cost-effective solution for you as possible to keep costs down, because we know that especially in the education sector, things are obviously usually cost sensitive, so we try and adhere to that. What we're doing in the future, we're trying to add more source platforms. So I mentioned some of the ones that we migrate from already before. By July, the plan is to be able to migrate from OneDrive, from Dropbox and Box as well, on top of that, over to Google Apps and over to Bolt. So if you currently are utilizing those source platforms and you think, oh, it's not in the tool yet, please reach out to us, speak to us. We'll be sure to keep you in the loop, and we can start project planning now with you. That's not an issue, working towards when that will be available in the tool. In terms of the future, I mean, as Stuart touched on before, Google's forever evolving. You get a Chromebook and the latest software updates installed automatically, and the older the device, the better it's getting almost. We have to make sure that we're on the same ball as on the ball with Google there. So our tool's ever developing. We're constantly updating to coincide with the latest APIs that Google release, which means you're not going to get any nasty surprises. The tool's always going to be compatible. Another thing that we have currently is a migration calculator. So I said before, you know, we should be able to give you a few different options. How long will your migration take, depending on how many servers you're using. That's a pretty good estimate at the moment. What we're looking to do is to be a kind of a definitive forecaster, so we'll be able to say your migration will take exactly X amount of time, rather than it being an estimate. So yeah, just in summary, again, we're a multi-source platform migration tool. We move pretty much any item. If there's a home for it in Google, we like to say, then we'll move it there. We move more in terms of email, attachments, files, and drive. We move it faster because we can scale it up. Our migrations are more efficient. And the tool itself, as Noel mentioned, we tend to, the preferable option tends to be to go through us to do your migration. But if you have the technical expertise, then you can run the migration yourself. The tool's fully downloadable from the website, and you can spin it up on multiple machines, whether that be local or in the cloud. And finally, we just thought we'd highlight some specific benefits of Cloud Migrator for education. I've mentioned about faster user adoption quite a few times. We do it what we call a complete migration. So if the user's used to seeing certain forms of data in the source platform, then if there's a home for it in Google, we'll move it there, which means the user's not having to deal with having to lose certain things that they're used to using. Instead, it's really quickly to kind of land on your feet from day one, and be accessing all the documents and all the data that they were in their previous source platform. We move attachments to Drive, so obviously the users aren't losing data, and as I touched on before, it gets the users actually utilizing Drive more than they would if the attachments existed in the Gmail. Again, we maintain folder hierarchy and ACLS, so everything looks the way that it should do. And we migrate more, so the users are not missing as much data as they would be if you used other third-party solutions to migrate your data. We're flexible, so we provide a bespoke migration service. So you come to us, we have a discussion around your project. we develop a bespoke project plan for you where we talk about all your different options, your go live date, when you want certain batches of users moved, if you want different, so say you want early adopters and then later on you want to do a bulk migration of your users, we can do that for you. And I also think it's really important to say that the Cloud Migrator was designed to have no impact on the students or the faculty and to have no system or mail downtime. So we actually copy data rather than migrate it. And we've done this on purpose. What it allows us to do is to say, if you contact us tomorrow, we can start migrating data straight away, all your historical data up until, say, 2 months ago, and that gets the ball rolling and makes sure that there's no nasty surprises, and if there is, we can deal with them. And then when it comes closer to the go live date, say the weekend before, we do a final Delta migration. It migrates a couple of months worth of data, which is a lot smaller, and then that allows for a really seamless transition for your users with no impact. And it also allows us to work to your timescales as well. As I mentioned on the previous slide, we try to be as cost effective as possible. So amongst the other things that I mentioned already today, we are giving you a promotional code which will allow you to get a percentage discount off our services or our licensing. So if you do decide to move ahead with us, then it's worthwhile staying to the end to get that code. So when you get in contact with us, you can make even further savings. And finally, in terms of enablement, we do offer training. So we have went in and done training for Google Guides or for end users in regards to different elements of Google Apps, which are just going to help user adoption again. We do provide support if you're doing your migration yourself. So if you have access to our support team who can assist you through that. And also as part of our migration service, we do pilot migrations and test migrations. So we'll do a pilot migration or a test migration of a batch of your users. You'll confirm that everything looks the way that it should do. And then once you're happy with that, it means we can move forward confident that everything's going to be the way that you think it should be when we migrate you over. So I'm just going to pass it back over to Andrew, who's going to introduce Michael. So thank you very much. Again, if you've got any questions you can think of, pop them in the questions window on the right-hand side, and we'll handle them in the Q&A. But otherwise, thanks very much, and Andrew, I'll pass over to you.
Thanks, Hannah. Yeah, as Hannah says, we've been lucky enough to be joined by one of our former migration customers, Michael Medley from the Perry Local School District in Ohio. So first of all, thanks for joining us, Michael. I'll just provide a little bit of a background on who you guys are. So currently the Perry Local School District serves around 5,000 students from the Perry Township in Ohio. From the 9th year in a row, the district's been given the designation of excellent by the Ohio Department of Education. And they approached us back in 2012, sort of spring 2012, with regards to making the move to Google Apps, utilizing our solution, Cloud Migrator. And as I say, we've got Michael here today, so I'm just going to bounce a few questions to Michael, and hopefully you find it interesting. So, Michael, what were some of the initial kind of deciding factors in your, moving users over to Google Apps for Education? Was there anything pushing you towards that decision?
We were on a group-wise 8 installation, and one of the things we were starting to come up against as far as issues was the mobile piece for Google. More and more people were getting mobile phones at the time. They wanted to connect them to our email program and get their school email on their phones, and it was just a real hassle to try and connect phones to our installation that we had on GroupWise. That was one of them. The cost was another one that came into play on that, because we did have an annual license fee for the GroupWise package. Mm-hmm. With GAF, it is free for schools, as was mentioned earlier. Some of the other things that kind of came into play was the uptime availability.
Right.
We didn't have the resources available to necessarily keep the server up all the time. If something happened where the district lost internet access, then everybody's email shut down and they no longer had access to it. Mm-hmm. Whereas Google has a lot more resources to dedicate keeping things up and running than what we did as a district.
Sure, excellent, thank you. And how did you come to find out or hear about CTS or Cloud Migrator?
It was mostly just looking at ways we could migrate all the email from our GroupWise system into the Google system, just looking at different options out there, different products, and came across the Cloud Migrator solution, and it looked like it was going to work pretty well.
Excellent. And how did your migration go in terms of the resilience of the product and the process itself?
The process was, well, number one was we inundated our users with how it was going to be. We started actually in January of 2012 saying, hey, we're going to Google in May. Hey, we're going to Google in May, over and over and over. They were probably sick and tired of hearing about going to Google. We actually had some of our audio, our television production unit with students go through and make commercials about it that we were sending out, videos of, some of the videos were kind of like the old Mac and PC commercials where the old group I was the outgoing old one and the Gmail was the hip new one coming in to replace it, highlighting all the mobile features and the collaboration, availability, just building up for that for months. I mean, we were emailing them once or twice a week about Google's coming, Google's coming, Google's coming, just to get the word out. So they would have had been living under a rock to not know they were going to Google. I think that's the first step that kind of made everything pretty smooth. And then as we got closer, we started to ask them things like, find out if they wanted to migrate their GroupWise account to Google. We have about 600 staff members. Of that, about 400 of them said they did want their stuff migrated. But we did have about 200 staff members that said, you know what, I'd just like to have a clean start in the new Google Mail and not migrate all that old stuff I haven't looked at probably for years anyway.
Right.
And so we actually did several times again, just kept emailing them forms to fill out if they wanted it, migrated over, then to go ahead and migrate it. And then we basically picked our drop dead date or migration date. I want to say it was around the end of April, first week in May, something like that.
Yeah.
And basically just said, effective on Monday, email will no longer be delivered to your GroupWise. Your GroupWise will still run. You can still go into it and look at old emails and such, but you will not be able to send email or receive email on the GroupWise account. And then we actually took that weekend and migrated, basically ran the bulk of the migration over that weekend. And if I would have realized it at the time, actually on the way the licensing worked, is we could have actually migrated everybody's mailboxes over prior to that drop dead date, and then we could have just ran the migration the second time to get anything new that had come in. We didn't realize we could do that, so we actually cut off email delivery on the GroupWise system, migrated everything over, and started the email delivery to the new system.
Yeah, and that is an interesting point to make, that we do actually recommend a kind of delta or stage migration, as you say, to stage it a bit better. But the big bang approach is also popular as well. So whatever's right for the customer, you know, the tool kind of works around that, I guess. And in terms of the speed of the migration, how long everything took, did that meet your needs? Were the users able to adopt Google Apps in line with the timeframes you had set out?
Yeah, we actually ended up using just 3 or 4 workstations and going through and tying them into the GroupWise. One thing that was nice about the Cloud Migrator versus some of the other solutions specific to GroupWise was there was no user interaction required on the user side. Here we could do it all administratively. Some of the other ones actually wanted you to expect the users to go in and follow a set of instructions to allow the migration to happen, or write their password down on a password sheet so it could go in and get each person's account. And Cloud Migrator was all done administratively, so the users did not have to do anything. And then we just went through and set up, like I said, the several workstations. And the first workstation did like names A through G or something.
Right.
And then we split it up for that way and just basically let them chug over the weekend.
Yeah.
And they completed, I want to say it was all very quickly, within a day or so of getting all those accounts migrated over and everything. It was pretty smooth. And we went back a couple of them. Maybe we had some lost emails or whatever, and anybody that we found if something didn't transfer right, we just ran it against our account again and picked up everything again. So
right.
So it seemed to work very well with regards to that.
Excellent. And just generally, would you recommend the solution to any other educational entities? And if you would, why would you do so? If you could sum it up in a few lines as to why you'd recommend us.
Guys were great to work with. When we ran the numbers, the pricing was very reasonable, very fair. We were able to go through and since we did figure out who wanted theirs migrated over, we just bought the licenses for the people that wanted theirs migrated over versus buying them for everybody and then not needing some of them.
Mm.
And then, the whole process was very smooth and it worked out very, very well.
Cool. Thanks for the the good feedback. I guess 3 years on now, what would you say are some of the key benefits that your users have gained from actually using Google Apps for Education?
We only did a lot of training with the Gmail function. All the other things out there, the Google Classroom, the Google Drive, Google Calendar, a lot of that stuff we didn't really do any training on, but man, is it taken off. We just kind of said it's out there, it's theirs for you to use, and I was just looking today, inside of our stats, we have a little over 800,000 files shared within our district, students K12 and staff and everything else. So we're seeing a lot of collaboration. I mean, we've just seen exponential growth as far as people using the Drive piece and working with the others and so on and so forth. Files back and forth or whatever collaboration, and it kind of guys highlighted earlier. They'll have a group of kids, so 5 or 6 kids, and they'll all be working on the same document together and
right
from home or wherever. So we've seen a lot of use with that. The ease of use for Gmail, for instance, someone wants to add it on their phone, they go in and add a Gmail account on their phone. You don't have to worry about setting up a POP server, the SMTP, any of that stuff. You just drop it in, put your account information in, and go. You guys were highlighting the Chromebooks. We have about 1,200 Chromebooks in the district so far. Again, you turn it on, and the student logs in with their credentials, and they're off and rock and rolling. We manage them. We get it's a $30 management piece, and you just go into your Google admin panel, and you can customize very granular as far as what Chromebooks get what. So if you want to assign Chromebooks to a specific student and then restrict what that student can do with that Chromebook, you can do that. We typically do ours just instead of going all the way down to student level, either by all students or by grade level.
Right.
So it's kind of up to you as far as how you want to set up the Chromebook. So that piece is very nice as well.
Yeah, and I guess you mentioned mobile integration as being kind of a key deciding point in your decision to go Google, and it sounds like that's really an important piece of how you guys work and how you're using Google Apps.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So thanks for your time, Michael. It's been really helpful and good to get such positive feedback. I'm going to hand over to Noel, who's going to give us a bit of an overview on the kind of commercial side, the kind of educational pricing packages we offer to our educational customers. So thank you, Michael, and thank you, Noel.
Yeah, thanks, guys, especially Michael for coming on today and putting aside a good hour's worth of your time. So thanks for that. Glad that you've not only pleased with Cloud Migrator, but also more than happy with Google Apps for Education as well. Just as you can see on the screen, some commercials and standard discounts that we offer. So down the left-hand side of the screen, we can see that Cloud Migrator license. So we do is list priced at $10. We have customers who just want to buy the license, and they've got a workforce which is more than capable and with enough time to carry out the migration themselves. So with a little bit of enablement training that Hannah mentioned before, we can actually get those people operational and doing their own migration. So in terms of a license, we've got a standard education discount, which will take staff down to $6 a license, or $6 a user, that is, and students down to $2. So you don't have to migrate your students. Not everybody does. Some people do, but generally everybody wants to migrate staff information over, and that's the standard rate we've got there. Now, we offer a migration service, which also quite a lot of people take up as well. So this includes our software and our services team. And once again, Hannah detailed the bespoke offering that we've got there and the collaboration that we get involved with those type of customers. So there's the staff discount and there's a student discount there as well for education. And today, for everyone that's attended the Hangout on Air, we're making a promotional offer. So that's an additional 10% discount from licensing and a 15% discount on anyone who wants to go for the migration service. So if you come back to us quoting the discount code or the promotion code, then those additional discounts are available, and those are valid till the 31st of July. So just to clear up perhaps a few points there, the software can be run across that user as many times as is required. So we can preload data from the source domain. It's always copied over into Google Apps, and typically that might start with preloading email, and then as we get near to the cutover period, we're then adding contacts, calendars, and file shares into Drive as well. So we want to make sure that those are the most current and up to date. Not only can we, with calendars, we can copy over historical appointments, but we also copy over future appointments. And we deal very well with recurring appointments, especially if somebody's made an amendment to one of those. Then the Cloud Migrator is set up to deal with little things like that. So not only do we migrate what's Google term oversize and some strange files in terms of .exes and zip files, we can also cope with other irregularities as well. And that's how we get our 99.7% item success rate. So that's pretty much it on the commercials. Obviously, we'd be more than happy to take any questions and answer those for you, and we can deal with those on a one-to-one basis if you want to come back to us. So Google Apps for Education, in terms of getting there, I'm just looking to see what we've only got a few questions come in, so you've still got a chance to post those in the chat window. If you just click on the Q&A on the left hand side, you can add those in, but I'll take the first one of those. What are the most common issues with data migrations, and how does Cloud Migrator address those? So I think that the question there is, where do you start with a migration, and what can you migrate? So typically with Cloud Migrator, it simplifies that, as it will copy pretty much everything over from your source platform into the Google Apps destination. And it's also highly configurable in terms of items and which date ranges you want to copy over. And as I mentioned before, it can also be run multiple times against a user to capture all the required data. So that's a method of staging the data, getting the bulk of the information over into Google Apps, so that when you actually come to go live, it's fairly minimal amount of data that you're copying over, and it can be really successful. So hopefully that answers that question. Excuse me. How long does a migration take using Cloud Migrator? I'm just going to pass that one back to you, Hannah, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks, Noel. Yeah, I mean, how long's a piece of string, I guess, for that one? The first question we're going to ever ask you is how much data do you have? So, I mean, regardless of how many users you have, that doesn't have a great amount of effect, unless you're talking, you know, tens and tens of thousands, then it would have a slight impact on it. But otherwise, it's purely down to the data. So once we have that data, as I mentioned before, we've got a migration calculator. So we can pop in an amount of data, and then we have the option to select different amounts of virtual machines which we're going to use to perform that migration. And we can also change the amount of threads that we run on that as well. So we're able to say to you, listen, we can run the migration on one machine. It's going to be at no extra cost, and the migration is going to take X amount of time. But then we could say, we could run up an extra 2 or 3 servers. There's going to be a slight cost impact on that, but your migration is going to happen, 3 times as fast, essentially, because we can split the users against those migrations. Google does have a few limitations with it, so they actually limit us to migrating it's 1 item per second. But obviously, if we're splitting the users across more machines, then essentially it's like having less of a traffic jam. You can get more users through, and that's part of the beauty of the machine being, or the tool being more scalable, really. So it depends on how fast you want your migration to happen. We like to have as much time as possible, obviously, to look to work through a project and do a migration. But if your backs are really against the wall in terms of time, then pretty much any timeline we can match to, just depending on how we scale up the tool.
Okay, thanks, Hannah. We've got one other question at the moment. I guess this one we'll push back to you, Andrew.
Yeah, sure.
What level of reporting is there? We mentioned reporting in the slides, so this one's come up. What level of reporting is there, and is this included?
Yeah, okay, so as a user of Cloud Migrator, what we'll actually provide you with is a detailed audit log and PDF report, and that's for both the administrator and for the end user as well. So these provide a really detailed, granular, high-level overview of what's been migrated or hasn't been migrated and why. And these reports are all inclusive within the one product. There's no additional cost to find out, how successful your migration is. It'd be silly of us to charge for that. So that's all inclusive.
Okay, thanks, Andrew.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got another question coming just now. So thanks, Bob, for that. Is this a one-time cost, or is this a repeating annual cost? I guess I'll take that in terms of the commercials. It is a one-time cost. So you buy the use of the license. Typically that lasts for a year, 12 months. And it's a one-off cost for that 12-month period in order to do as many run-throughs against any particular user that you like. So if you want to migrate 2, 3, 4, 500 staff, then it's 500 times whatever amount, and that's the cost in terms of using the software or using the service. As I say, it's a one-off cost, and it lasts for a year. So if you wanted to look at moving, we have some organizations where they want to switch Google Apps on because they're short on file share space. It's on-site disks are failing, or they just run out of space, so they want to go and utilize it, and we can migrate the files first. They could do that at the same time, or they want to do the email followed by the file shares. So that's a great way of doing that. Hopefully that's answered your question there. And we'll just kind of throw it open to the floor. Just ask, has anybody got any other questions just before we finish off today? It's not looking like it at the moment. So in terms of next steps for everybody out there, if you're interested in using Cloud Migrator for your move to Google Apps, just reach out to us, book a consultation in. Hannah, Andrew, or myself can be contacted at Cloud Solutions on contact@cloudsolutions.co.uk, and don't forget to mention the promo code, and that will ensure your discount up until the end of July. Okay, so we haven't had any more questions, so with that I'll sign it off. I'll say a special thank you firstly to Michael from Perry Schools. for attending today. Thank you very much, Michael. And thanks for everybody out there who's attended the Hangout on Air, and hopefully it's been useful. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye now.